Calling all cars, the presentation of the Rio Grande Oil Company.
Police calling all cars, attention all cars to the sheriff's office. Broadcast 65 regarding a train wreck and a robbery in Mint Canyon. Suspect described as tall, thin, wearing a mask. That's all. Rosenquist.
Tonight we bring you a dramatization of the wreck of Old 59. With us in the studio are the men who escaped a painful death in that wreck of the S.P. Cracked Flyer. Engineer R.C. Ball and his fireman R.C. Fowler. They are here to live over again with you the most thrilling experience of their lives. Tonight's story is described in the February issue of the Calling All Cars News, a unique publication given away by all service stations selling Rio Grande cracked gasoline. If you have not already driven in and asked for your free copy of the Calling All Cars News, do so tonight or tomorrow. There is no obligation. You need buy nothing. And you will find tonight's broadcast doubly enjoyable when you also read the true story and see the pictures. Get the habit of going to your neighborhood Rio Grande dealer the first of every month and getting your free copy of this unusual publication. It contains the latest movie news, previews, and photos of new films. Read the sensational true story of Jean Harlow's life. And there's a radio guide to help you find the best programs on the air, and a theater guide. This periodical is only one sample of the free services you get from your Rio Grande dealer. When you buy Rio Grande cracked gasoline, you get Tetra Ethyl, plus extra power, plus extra speed, at no extra cost. When you buy Sinclair Opaline motor oil, you get an oversized quart for a quarter, 2 extra ounces free. Rio Grande's remarkable growth in sales proves that Rio Grande dealers offer the best values in this market. Tonight we had hoped to present as our guest officer Sheriff Eugene Discaloo of Los Angeles County. But a summons from the governor has taken him to Sacramento, and he has delegated as his representative the hero of tonight's case, an officer who followed his man across half a dozen states and finally brought him to earth in Oklahoma. Presenting Captain Tom Higgins from the Sheriff's Office of Los Angeles County.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I guess I'll have quite a time living up to that send-off Dr. Linkley just gave me. To tell the truth, I'd much rather be chasing the toughest train wrecker in the country than standing up in front of this mocking little brown microphone. Casey Jones, my partner, and I got quite a kick out of running down the man who wrecked the West Coast Limited. I guess the case developed on hunches, those things that officers often get but can't quite explain. Of one thing I'm very sure. If the boys in the sheriff's office hadn't chipped in with their hard-earned dough to finance me for the trip, the chances are that Vernon the train wrecker would never have been crushed so soon. But I'm getting way ahead of the story. Just sit tight and you'll hear all about it.
A few minutes past 6 o'clock on the evening of November 10th, 1929, the S.P. Cracked Flyer, the West Coast Limited, pulls out of Los Angeles bound for Portland. Slow Slowly the long train puffs up Alameda Street, through the garish lights of Chinatown, rattles over the siding, stops briefly at Glendale and Burbank. San Fernando once left behind, the Limited gathers up speed for the long dash across the Mojave Desert. Fog slips past the train windows, a blur of light. As the engine's whistle blasts, the black... The flyer is doing better than 50 miles an hour as it roars around the gentle curve behind snowy Baker's Ranch. A light serpent of light, its fiery head shooting sparks to the yellow stars above. Inside the train, more than 100 passengers enjoy the comfort of furious travel, dining from clean white linen in the dining car, reading the latest magazines in the club car, serene and confident that they will be speedily delivered to their destination. And then... with a sickening lurch, the engine leaves the track, plows into a ditch, carrying tender and hard after it. Escaping steam hisses about the trapped engineer and fireman. A broken fuel line bursts into flame. In the dining car, passengers are hurled from their tables, scalded with hot liquid. The lights go out. The lights go out. Women scream. Men shout. Terror descends on the desert. Through a darkened car strides the conductor, seeking to quiet the hysterical passengers.
About folks, nothing to get excited. We haven't been able to find out exactly yet, ma'am, but the engine jumped the track. All the cars are still upright.
I'm not forgetting your light in here. My wife's cleaned it.
Sorry, sir, you'll have to get her outside. We've opened the doors on the right-hand side. Why? George, you rascal, what are you doing in there?
Oh, I'm saying my prayers, boss. I'm preparing to meet my maker.
Nonsense, you get out of there and help those passengers off the car.
Oh, I'm scared to do that, boss. Something awful's gonna happen.
Something awful will happen to you if you don't get out of there and do as I say. All right, folks, step out this way.
Oh, look here, conductor. The delay's going to cost me money. The railroad company will have to deliver me in Portland on schedule or they'll hear from me.
I can't do anything about that, sir. From the looks of this thing, we're lucky we're alive. How about it, George? The passengers all out?
I said the engine's burning. Someone up there. The engine is smoking gas. We gotta get it out.
Okay, coming up.
Just stay where you are. Nobody's going up to the front of this train.
Who are you?
Well, I know who I am. This Rod's my calling card. All right, folks, line up against the car and reach for the sky. This is a hold-up, and I mean business.
I say, just like the cinema. Really the Wild West, isn't it?
All right, Sam, let's chatter and tell out. I'm in a hurry. Come on, you fork over. Here it is. You too, ma'am.
All right.
Give me that purse.
Here it is.
Here, mister, I don't want your ticket, just your dough.
There's a doctor down there. The engineer is pretty bad with his foot.
Hey, you conductor. Tell him to hold his horse.
But I...
Go on, go on.
All right. I'll send somebody up in a minute.
Well, hurry up. He's in a bad way. Look here. I'm a doctor. Let me go up there when I'm needed. Okay, but kick in first. Very well. That's everything I have on me. All right. Now stand up there, then. All right, ladies. Let's have your dough. You too, mister.
Here come the police.
Well, they didn't waste much time getting the call in. Let's sound of my invitation to scram, my friend. Thank you all for your contribution, and I hope I haven't caused any too much convenience. Again, my thanks, and good night.
The engineer, suffering from painful burns, is quickly taken to a hospital, and a relief train dispatched from Los Angeles returns the battered and shaken passengers, none of whom have been seriously injured. All night long, a posse of deputy sheriffs and ranchers combed the hills for a trace of the train robber. But as day breaks on the wreckage of the West Coast Limited, no sign of the criminal has been found. With the coming of light, the investigating officers make a closer inspection of the scene.
Whoever did this job knew his railroading. How come? He pulled the spikes that held the fish plates to the ties. The rails were loosened and they spread when the train went over them. But notice he didn't touch the tie wires connecting the rails. What are they for? They're part of the signal system. If they were shorted, the blocks would automatically have been shut off to warn the Limited.
Smart guy, huh?
You bet he was. But I can't savvy why he went to all these pains for the $300 or so he lifted from the passengers. He didn't even try to rob the mail cars.
Maybe he's too smart to monkey with a federal rap.
Yeah, maybe.
Hey, Tom, here's something you may know.
What?
One coat. Searching party just brought it in.
Well, that's it. Yeah. No identification on it. Might be anybody's coat.
Well, we better interview some of the passengers and see if they can identify it. Several passengers do identify the coat as the same worn by the bandits. And in addition, add the frugal information that the man had a thin face and freckles. With such meager information, the manhunt is prosecuted with little success. Then, about a week later, on a ranch near Riverside...
Hey, Joe, come over here. Get a good laugh. Nancy's trying to tell me how tough he is.
Yeah, what's he saying?
He says he's a good friend of a lot of safecrackers in Los Angeles.
Yeah, well, you come down to L.A. with me. I'll show you. I'm in the know down there. They got respect for me.
Yeah. You're such a hot guy. I'll send you out here grabbing orange.
Oh, I got a job in the groves to lay low for a while. You know how it is.
Sure. What's your specialty, Les? Pickups or good thing murder?
Oh, I ain't particular. I handle the rod pretty good. And I'm not bad at wrecking trains.
Yeah.
Well, you wrecked that train last week, huh?
You never can tell, boys. You never can tell.
Hey, Joe. Maybe that fella tell the truth, huh?
I don't think so.
Yeah, maybe he ain't lying, Joe. Maybe we should tell the cops, huh?
Tell the cop what for?
Quien sabe? Maybe there's a big reward for him.
Well, it won't hurt none to find out. I don't like him much anyhow.
Meade, the braggart orange picker, is arrested and closely questioned by several deputy sheriffs. After some time, he confesses.
Sure, I did it. I broke open a section toolkit and pried the spikes loose. But I wasn't in the holdup.
You weren't, huh? Oh, why not?
Well, I happened to run into a couple of guys when I was bumming down from Bake to Lush. They propositioned me to fix the track. They gave me $250 for the job and told me to beat it.
Who are they?
I don't know their names.
Well, what did they look like?
Well, one was about 40. He had gray hair and black eyes and was about my build. Yeah, and the other was younger. He had light hair and blue eyes, and he was about 5'4".
Remember anything else about them?
Only that the young guy wore a torn coat.
You realize in ripping those rails that you might have killed a lot of innocent people?
Yeah. Yeah, I might have at that, mightn't I?
Well, what did you do it for?
$250?
Take him back to his cell, Sergeant.
Yes. Come on.
Well, boys, I guess this closes our case. We've all worked hard, and I want to thank you for your splendid cooperation.
Well, maybe the sheriff is satisfied, Tom, but I'm not. I don't think Meade pulled this job. I've been thinking the same thing, Casey. Let's follow this thing through. I've got a hunch I'd like to work on. What is it? I think this guy Meade is a nut. Well, there is something screwy about the way he talks, and there's a goofy look in his eyes. All right. So let's do a little off-the-record investigating. First, we'll send his description, mug, and prints to every bug house on the Pacific coast. Deputy Sheriffs Higgins and Jones are right. Their query receives a reply from the Medical Lake Asylum at Spokane, Washington, that Meade is an escaped inmate of the institution. This discovery reopens the case. Newspapers again devote columns of space to the story and carry the legal description of the train robber. The newspaper stories send an excited young woman into the sheriff's office, where Higgins and Jones interview her.
I think I saw the man who wrecked that train.
You did? When?
The night of the wreck, my father gave him a lift into Hollywood.
What?
Yes, and he had a thin face like the paper said.
Now, just
You know-
a minute, miss. Please start at the beginning and tell us just what happened.
Well, we live in Burbank, and on the night of the wreck, my father and mother and my sister Helene and I were driving into Los Angeles when a man hailed us.
Yes?
Father stopped the car, and he got in the back seat with Sister and me. He said he'd been in a train wreck, and he'd like to be driven to the Hollywood Hospital if we were going that way.
Where was this?
Between Burbank and Magnolia Park.
Yes, but the wreck occurred near Saugus.
Well, he said he must have been out of his head and wandered across the hill. He said he didn't remember a thing from the time the train jumped the track till he came to the road where we picked him up. Helene and I wanted to go back and see the wreck, But this man said he was hurt pretty bad, so Father said we best send him to the hospital. But he had a thin face, just like the paper said.
And did he have freckles?
Well, he had liver spots on his face. They might be mistaken for freckles in the dark.
Anything else you noticed about his appearance?
Why, yes. Yes, he had a drooping eyelid. The left eyelid, I think it was.
A drooping eyelid, thin face, liver spots. I got it, Casey. I got it.
Got what?
I know who pulled this job and also pulled the train robbery in Wyoming last week.
You mean the one that was assembly to the SC job?
Yeah.
Well, who is it?
Wait a minute, not so fast. Let's get an identification from this young lady. Just a second while I go through this mug book.
Captain, we know who wrecked the West Coast Limited.
You do?
Yes, sir. And it's the same guy who wrecked the Union Pacific Portland Flyer near Cheyenne last week.
Well, who is he?
Tom Vernon, 3-time loser.
Oh.
He ran the donkey engine in the prison yard while he was at Folsom. I sent him up the last time. He came to see me when he got out last month. Said he was going straight.
Apparently he has.
I've been awful dumb about this. I should have connected him with this thing before.
Well, how are you sure he did it?
Just talked to a girl whose father gave him a lift from Burbank into L.A. a few hours after the wreck. She identified his mug, and his description tallied with those furnished by the victim. Now, here's the payoff. I got a letter from Vernon from Denver on the 14th, telling me he had left Los Angeles on the morning of November 10th to look for work in Denver. Now, the 10th was the day of the West Coast Limited wreck, and Vernon was trying to build up an alibi.
Well, a check of the bus lines and trains would prove whether you're right.
Yeah, Jonesy and I'll make that check, but I know I'm right. And if I do find he left after the wreck, you let me go to Denver and bring him back?
Well, Tom, I'd sure like to, but we haven't any funds for that purpose.
No funds? What do you mean? Gene Biscalous went all the way to Honduras for Clara Phillips.
Well, you see, Tom, the state law says that you can have any amount of money to travel to another state, or even to another country to bring back a fugitive already under arrest. But there are no funds available for expenses of officers seeking evidence or apprehending a mere suspect.
Well, all I got to say is that's a screwy law.
Well, unfortunately, we can't do anything about it.
If I had any money of my own, I'd pay my own way.
The only thing we can do is to ask Denver to pick Vernon up.
And they'd probably muff it. They don't know the guy. I do.
I'm sorry, Tom. That's all we can do.
What a nice 8-ball that puts us behind.
But Higgins' partner quickly unsnarls the legal knot by informing the deputies of the robbery squad of the situation. Within 5 minutes, they raise a purse of $200 and pledge that much more, so that Higgins may go to Denver and bring back his man. A check on the bus terminals reveals that Vernon left Los Angeles for Denver at midnight on November 10th, 4 hours after the wreck, instead of on the morning of the 10th, as he had claimed. Higgins loses no time in getting to Denver, and there, with the assistance of acting captain of detectives James Maxwell, he searches the rooming houses and hotels of the Colorado capital. Finally,
Got anyone registered here by the name of Vernon?
Vernon? Let me see. When would you come in?
November 11th, probably.
No, there's nobody here with that name.
Anyone been here in the past couple of weeks that looks like this picture?
Sure. Only didn't use the name of Vernon. Said his name was Harley.
Good. Is he in now?
No, he checked out about a week ago. Said he's going to Cheyenne.
Cheyenne, huh? Well, it looks like I'm just beginning to travel.
Higgins boards the next train for Cheyenne, and upon his arrival in the Wyoming city, pays a call upon Sheriff G.H. Roman of Laramie County.
Sheriff, I just dropped in to tell you I was in town. What brings you up this neck of the woods, Higgins? I'm looking for Tom Vernon. Tom Vernon? I'm looking for him, too. Yeah, that's what I figured. Well, it might surprise you to know he's right here in Cheyenne. What? That's what they told me in Denver. Well, where is he? That's what I'm going to find out. I'll go with you. I don't need any help. You got a warrant for his arrest? No. Well, I have. You couldn't run without me if you did find him. I guess you're right there. I'm not going to let that $10,000 reward slip through my fingers without trying for it. Okay, Sheriff. We might as well work together as lose time arguing about a reward we haven't earned yet.
But the search in Cheyenne merely results in the information that Vernon has returned to Denver. Higgins hopped the train for the city, and to his great disgust, Sheriff Romser accompanies him. Arriving in Denver, Higgins ducks Romser, and tired out, goes to the nearest rooming house. He spends a restful night, and next morning is studying his note for the case when the chambermaid comes to clear up the room. She is cleaning an ashtray when her gaze falls on Vernon's picture thrown carelessly on the dresser.
Well, the tasty praise.
What's the matter?
How come you to be having a picture of Mr. Vernon?
Do you know him?
Indeed, I do, and a nicer man you never met. Tips handsomely, he
Is he
does.
staying here?
No, he left a couple of days ago. He's gone down to Oklahoma.
Yeah. Where in Oklahoma?
Well, he told me to forward his mail to Pawnee, Oklahoma. He's down there visiting a circus man called Pawnee Bill.
Thanks. That's just fine.
Oh, for the love of heaven, what are you throwing all those things back into your bag for?
I suddenly remembered I got to catch a train for Oklahoma. Oh, and here's $1 for being such a good chambermaid.
Higgins spends the hour before train time at the Denver police headquarters. Here once more he runs into Sheriff Romser, who somehow hears his destination. When the train pulls out of Denver for Pawnee, Higgins is again disgusted to find Romser aboard. That night at a Kansas way station, Higgins wires Jones, his partner, begging him to get a warrant sworn out for Vernon's arrest. Jones gets right on the job, and the next morning when Higgins and Romser arrive at the Pawnee jail.
Good morning, Marshal. I'm Deputy Sheriff Higgins of Los Angeles County. This is Sheriff Romser of Laramie County, Wyoming.
Pleased to meet you, gentlemen.
Thanks.
We're holding Vernon a prisoner here for you, Higgins.
That's 12.
He's my man, Marshal. Well, you see, Sheriff, we got a warrant telegraphed to us last night from Los Angeles County asking us to arrest this Vernon fella. So, we went out and got him.
Stole a marching that time, Romser.
You haven't got your man yet.
But I'm gonna get him.
Look here, Higgins. If I take that man back to Wyoming, we'll hang him.
We've got a death penalty for train wrecking in California.
But I happen to know that no one's ever been executed for train wrecking in your state.
I promise you we'll demand the death penalty in this case.
I'm not sure that you'll get it, though. I know this man will swing in Wyoming.
Well, I'm not going to give him up to you.
You haven't got him yet. You'll have to expedite.
We will.
Maybe you will, and maybe you won't. Might interest you to know that the governor of Wyoming has just gotten back from a 2-week hunting trip. He's a guest of the governor of Oklahoma. That ought to make some difference.
Yeah, it ought to. But we'll see whether it does or not.
District Attorney's office.
Pawnee, Oklahoma, calling from the Bureau on Third.
Just a minute, please. Long distance there.
Where is it?
I don't know. Pawnee, Oklahoma, the operator said.
I'll tell you. Hello?
Mr. Third?
Yes?
Just a minute, please. Go ahead, sir.
Hello, Bureau.
Yeah, who's this?
Tom Higgins, Bureau.
Oh, yes, Tom.
I'm down here at Pawnee, Oklahoma, and I've got Tom Vernon in jail. But Wyoming's starting extradition proceedings right away. It seems the governor of Wyoming and the governor of Oklahoma are buddies.
Now, don't worry about that. I'll take care of things. You sit tight, and I'll see you in the morning.
In the morning? How did you get here that quick?
Don't worry about that, too, Tom. Great work, old man. See you tomorrow. Get the sheriff's office on the wire. Tell them to send a man by plane to Sacramento and get Governor Young to sign extradition papers returning Tom Vernon to California. Then get the governor on the phone, and I'll talk to him myself. Is my bag packed?
Yes, sir. It'll all be here.
Good. Now call Western Air Express and arrange to charter a plane to take me to Pawnee, Oklahoma.
When do you want to leave?
I'll see 4 hours. As soon as the man gets back here from Sacramento with those papers. Meanwhile, in the Pawnee jail, Sheriff Romser has tried to steal a march on Higgins. He has been grilling Vernon hour after hour.
Might as well stop lying, Vernon. You did that job at Cheyenne.
You're crazy. I wasn't anywhere near Cheyenne when that job was
Well,
full.
where were you?
In Denver. The night it happened, I spent at a rooming house near the station. I tell you, I'm clean.
How do you know where you were on the particular night of the robbery?
Because I was sitting in the lobby and heard them tell about it over the radio.
You're lying, Vernon. It's all a lie, and it won't work. You left Los Angeles on the night of the 10th. You started for Denver, yeah. Stopped off at Cheyenne, and you pulled that job on the way. Had to be that way. You left in the midnight train on the 10th?
But I didn't, see? I left on the morning train, and I can prove
Yeah,
it.
how?
By a good friend of yours, Higgins.
Higgins. You're nuts.
I am, huh? Well, then ask him if he didn't get a letter from me Sent from Denver on the 14th.
Why'd you write to him?
Never mind that. The important thing is that I did. And in that letter, I told him I'd left on the morning train.
I'll be...
Well, Rumser, you might have let me know that you were going to put Vernon on the map.
What is it, Higgins? Vernon says he has an alibi to prove he couldn't have done either of the train jobs. That you're it.
I'm it.
Some letter he sent you proved he left there before that job was done and came straight to Denver.
You got it, too, didn't you, Higgins?
Well, now, what do you know about that? By George, Rumser, he's right.
You mean to tell me you had me chasing this guy all over the country when you knew he had a cast iron alibi?
It looks that way, Rumser. You know, I'm surprised that a smart guy like you was taken in.
And you mean I'm free to go?
Perfectly free, Vernon, except for one thing. It just happens that I've known you long enough to know you're a liar as well as a crook. So I checked the trains and buses out of L.A. on the 10th. You didn't leave there on the morning of the 10th. You left at midnight, 4 hours after the Saugus job was over.
What's your idea of all this? Has he got an alibi or hasn't he?
Sure, he's got an alibi. An alibi he wrote himself, and it's as phony as he is. Now, listen here, Vernon. I can assure you we've got a case against you that you can't beat. We've got a positive identification from the family that gave you a lift into Hollywood. And we'll be able to identify you half a dozen times over as soon as those victims see you. The simplest thing for you to do is to come clean.
Okay, Higgins. You've always been square to me. I wrecked the train and held up the
And
passenger.
after you made your getaway from Los Angeles, you went to Denver, then to Cheyenne. You wrecked the Union Pacific Flyer on November 25th.
I did not.
Don't lie to me.
You can't prove
I
it.
wouldn't be so sure about that. Got a case against you can't beat. You're going to hang for this, whether you confess or not.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm willing to admit something I did. Sure, I wrecked the SP train, but I didn't do nothing else.
Why did you wreck the train, Vernon? I thought you told me you were going straight.
Oh, I was. I tried to get a job from the SP as a fireman. They wouldn't take me on when they discovered I was an ex-con. So I got sore and figured I'd get back at them by wrecking the train.
What about all those innocent people you might have killed?
I guess I didn't think much about that.
So you just wrecked the train for revenge, huh?
Yeah, that's all.
What about the robbery?
Well, I didn't intend to rob the passengers, but when I saw the confusion, it seemed too easy, so I took as many of them as I could before the cops arrived.
When you found out how easy it was to wreck trains, you tried it again 15 days later in Cheyenne.
I didn't. You can't make me say that. I don't know what you're butting into this thing for. I committed a crime in California, and I'm going back there to face trial.
Maybe you are, and maybe you're going to Cheyenne to hang.
The following morning, Buren Fitz flies into Pawnee. Higgins, Romser, and he are quickly closeted with the governor of Oklahoma, who listens quietly to the pleas of California and Wyoming for the prisoner.
Your Excellency, this criminal has confessed his crime in California. He belongs to us. We will surely convict him and put him away where he can no longer threaten society.
If this man remains alive, he'll always be a threat to society. Give him to Wyoming, we'll hang him.
We can speedily convict him on his own confession. Wyoming would have to conduct a costly
We
trial.
don't care how much a trial it costs. We'll string him up in the end. He confessed to the California crime because he's afraid of the death penalty.
I will promise you this. If Vernon is returned to California, and if by any chance we should fail to obtain a conviction, we will turn him over to Wyoming.
Well, gentlemen, I've heard enough of the case to see that only one course is clear.
What is that, sir?
The California crime occurred prior to the Wyoming crime. Therefore, California has a prior right to the criminal. Surely, Sheriff, you can have no objections in view of Mr. Fitz's promise to turn the criminal over to you if he fails to obtain a conviction.
I want to see this man hung.
Oh, I'm afraid we must let justice take its course. The only fair solution of the situation is to award the criminal to the state of California, which I'm sure will see justice done in this case as he always has in the past.
After he had wrecked the West Coast Limited, Tom Vernon was locked in a cell in the Los Angeles County Jail. Although the district attorney delivered an impassioned plea for the death penalty, Judge William Tell Agler sentenced the train wrecker to life imprisonment in Folsom Penitentiary. Being a three-time loser under the California Habitual Criminal Act, Vernon may never receive either probation or parole and must spend the rest of his days behind prison walls.
Thank you, Captain Higgins.
Oakland, California. All police cars and fire engines operated by the city of Oakland are to use only Rio Grande cracked gasoline. Maricopa County, Arizona. Attention, all sheriff's cars. Official orders. You are to use Rio Grande cracked gasoline exclusively in all emergency equipment.
Berkeley, California. Fire engines, police cars, ambulances, attention. Your city specifies that only Rio Grande cracked gasoline shall be used in emergency equipment.
Los Angeles, California. For the third consecutive year, this city has decided that Rio Grande cracked gasoline is the only one to be used for all police cars, fire engines, and emergency equipment. Use no other gasoline. Los Angeles Police calling all cars. Attention all cars to Sheriff's Office. Cancellation broadcast 65. Regarding a train wreck and robbery. Suspect in this case now in custody. That's all. Rosenquist.
Calling All Cars is written and produced by William N. Robson. This is your narrator, Cedric Lindsley.